again, I don't want to go hell. I don't want to go 2 days without lights and power and stuff like that. So we're hoping that this storm and we get hit by it, which we probably will. We're hoping it won't be too serious. But I see a bunch of our people coming up in here now. Shout out to Original as well too. Shout out. We just went live on YouTube, guys. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna be touching up on this shortly. And like I say, please, Divine, definitely school everybody up in the space tonight. Exactly what's going on with the situation up there in New York. I'm gonna go ahead and get this space started in about 2 more minutes. Give the people a few more people time to come up in here so we can go ahead and get it flowing and stuff. So definitely, we're gonna dig into it tonight. And I don't know what the hell. The Negroes for Trump, the blacks for Trump, the niggas for Trump. I have no idea what these folks are talking about here, but yeah, sometimes our people latch on to anything, boy, and they really latched on to some crap right here. Whether you support Trump or not, I don't know why you feel the need to go ahead and create a movement talking about niggas for Trump. You selling T-shirts and all this other nonsense. So if you support somebody politically, fine, nothing wrong with that. But I really don't see the point of talking about niggas for Trump. Just like I don't see anybody saying niggas for Biden. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. Shout out to Black Majority State. I see you up in the space as well, too. Black, shout out to you as well. Shout out, shout out, shout out to you. I see Freeman Reparations coming up in the spot. Shout out to Freeman Reparations as well, too. Shout out Freeman. So yeah, guys, we're gonna definitely get it in tonight, and definitely interesting to hear about this. So definitely want to see what New York is talking about in terms of yeah, I can put that in the jumbotron for y'all. See it. Let me go ahead and put that up in there. And first, let me go ahead and retweet it out, and then let me go ahead and put it up in the jumbotron as well too. So guys, take a look up in the jumbotron on the left hand side. It's not up there yet. It should pop up there in a second. There's some information pertaining to the space tonight about the New York reparations. What's up, Extreme X? I see you over there on YouTube. For my people in YouTube, shout out to all my people that's gonna come up in YouTube. I know there ain't many of y'all in there right now, but shout out, hold it down over there, Extreme. Make sure you guys, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I got to put that link up in the actual jumbotron as well too. But if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment on tonight's broadcast. Once again, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment on tonight's broadcast. Definitely help us grow that YouTube channel. Help us to continue to grow that YouTube channel, family. And I'm putting that up in the jumbotron too. For anybody up in the space as well too, I'm putting that YouTube channel up in there. And yeah, and I also put the information up there that the First Lady of Love wanted. So that's also up in there. Information pertaining to the actual New York reparation bill. Let me go ahead, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing started. Our usuals, they'll start to filter in when they filter in, and we'll go ahead and we'll get this thing rolling. I want to touch up on the niggas for Trump first. Shout out to you, Nightfall. Salute to you as well, brother, over there on YouTube. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna touch up on the actual New York reparations bill as well, too. So let me go ahead and get this in real quick, guys. I want to read this quick. And sometimes we do have issues when I actually go to the sites and actually read these articles. So I'll be checking with you guys and make sure the audio is clear, that you can hear me, making sure that you guys can hear me. So give me 1 second. Give me 1 second while we go ahead and we get this situated. Yes, sir. The title of this article is Niggers for Trump Fall into Sucking Place. We Should Make Him King. A former New York candidate has gone viral for proudly declaring himself as a leader of the Niggers for Trump 2024 movement. Derek Gibson, a proud Republican who ran for governor of New York but was disqualified from the Republican Party, scheduled on June 28, 2022, has now geared his efforts towards supporting Donald Trump 2024 presidential bid despite his recent arrests on felony charges in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia. A video circulating on social media shows Gibson wearing his Niggas for Trump t shirt and blasting the former president's four indictments on racketeering charges, along with 18 co defendants, including Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows. Gibson was standing outside the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta where Trump was arrested and booked on Thursday, August 24th. He reposted the video to his Facebook page to announce the controversial t-shirts will be on sale tomorrow. I'm here to nope, this thing is moving, so excuse me, y'all. This page moving. I'm here to support President Trump, Gibson says before explaining why he supports the former commander-in-chief amid his recent arrest and mugshot, that was made public on Thursday. You want to know why I support President Trump? Because they done did black men like this for decades, he declared. Make up charges, so I know Trump is innocent. The failed New York candidate called out the corrupt two-tier justice system he feels is a witch hunt against the former president and proudly showed off his controversial t-shirt. That's why I'm here to show my support as a black man for Trump and wearing my shirt, niggas, for Trump 2024, he said. Gibson blasted Trump's current indictment as BS, and Fanai Williams, the district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia, leading the investigation into the former president. According to Gibson, Fanai went to school with his sister and became a puppet for the white liberals. The former political hopeful also believes the indictments will only strengthen support for Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. In fact, Gibson thinks Trump should be king. When asked for his name, Gibson proudly referred to himself as a nigga for Trump 2024. That's when a fellow Trump supporter who happens to be white called Gibson the N-word. That's my nigga, the white man said while pointing at Gibson. You can't make this stuff up. So I trust that you guys were able to hear me loud and clear for the most part. Ray, I see you trying to come up and speak. Let me get you up here. The space is kind of trying to freeze up on me, but let me get you up here real quick, Ray. All right. Can you hear me, Ray?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro. Loud and clear.
What's going on tonight, Ray?
And so, conspiracy theory, a little conspiracy theory, but this is just my theory. So, obviously, with Trump gaining all the support from, black people, because they're saying that the mugshot is somehow synonymous with us and crime and all this other bullshit they try to tie in with us. I wouldn't put it past the Democrats that they're saying, well, hey, since Trump is running now, won't we send somebody out of here with a niggas for Trump shirt on to kind of, who wants to be associated with Trump and being a nigga? So I don't know. Just want to hear what the family thinks about that. I mean, like I said, yes, it might be a conspiracy theory, but at the same time, I'd much rather, have that than a blindfold on.
All right, Ray. Shout out to Dana. I see Dana up in the space. Shout out to Tweety as well, too. Aunt La. At this point, like you said, I wouldn't put it past him. This dude already showed that he couldn't gather any muster in his running politics. So now I guess he's just becoming a bandwagon boy and putting out a t-shirt like this. I don't know if the Democrats put it up to him. I don't know if this is just a dude that's trying to make him a dollar, because he didn't hesitate to let you know that t-shirt was on sale the next day. So this could be a dude that's just money hungry, trying to get him a quick come up. And he figured, hey, if I put this t-shirt out here, it's gonna make a lot of white folks happy as well too. So hey, let me go ahead and put this out there and show that I'm an ignorant fool. And so he could be put up to it by somebody, or he could just be somebody looking for a quick come up as well too, Ray. So I don't know if it's a conspiracy or just a greedy nigga up here trying to make him a dollar. It's kind of hard to say, but at this point in time in the game, nothing would really surprise me. He could at least just put the blacks for and what was the other cat? He was one of the supporters when he had a blacks for Trump or whatever. He got arrested. He got arrested. The woman got arrested, and the black dude, I cannot think of his name right now. He was in jail longer than anybody else. He was still in jail, and everybody else got bonded out, bailed out, and whatnot. His butt was still sitting up in jail. So at this point in time, you really, when it comes to a certain amount of black people in politics, man, you just really don't know. You just really don't know. I don't know. I don't even know the point of this other than, like I say, to actually get attention put on you and actually come up and try to make some money. So, I'm not sure this is something that even, that a lot of Republicans themselves, as racist a lot of Republicans are, I'm pretty sure even they're gonna try to distance themselves to a certain degree from that. They don't want to say that. They don't want to have it on there because, hey, all it is just pointing out to what they really are. So I'm not even sure a lot of Republicans want to have this dude sitting up there, even though they agree with him. They just don't want him to put it out there the way he is. So this dude don't care, man. Like I said, to me, this is just a quick come up. He's trying to score some brownie points, and he's trying to hit a lick right here. He's trying to come up and trying to get some money in his pocket. That's why he put that niggas for Trump. And secretly, if he's got a website and he's selling it, ain't no telling how many white folks may secretly buy that shirt and put it up or whatever. They ain't gonna wear it publicly, but they may go ahead and buy it. And when they round a certain group of people or whatever, then they may feel comfortable enough to wear it like that. They're not gonna go to the store and wear it and stuff like that. So it is what it is at this point in time, man. I can't really say, but at this point, when it comes to politics, nothing really surprises me. And unfortunately, you got a lot of black men that'll do anything for a dollar as well too. So don't be surprised, Ray, if nobody had to twist his arm to get him up here and do something like this. Like I say, he could have seen dollar signs and a quick way to come up, get notoriety, get attention, to ingratiate himself into that mega fan base where he thinks that he'll always have a position or whatever at the bottom or whatever. So, it is what it is. Let me go ahead. Black Pressure, what's up? I see you up in the spot as well too. Shout out to Black Pressure. Shout out to Black Pressure. Pressure, did you want to say something real quick before I touch up on that other article? Because I wanted to I definitely it's Divine. I definitely want to get Divine up in here as well too. So we can definitely hear what he has to say on this, because this the New York situation as well too. I see my girl Dana, she's requesting to come up here as well too. So shout out to Miss Dana. Shout out to Miss Dana. But Pressure, did you want to say something real quick? Or you want to, I know you like to hold up and wait for a minute.
Yeah, I'm just leaving work now, man. Surviving, listening to y'all.
Okay, that's what it is, Pressure. Whenever you get ready to come and speak, just go ahead and put your hands up and we got you. So I know you probably leaving the job or whatever. So shout out to Dana. I know Dana, I know when you want to speak, you'll definitely go ahead and raise your hand. So at this point in time, I don't think anybody wants to speak. So let me go ahead real quick. And this is a very, very short.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Dana.
Okay, so I'm on my computer, right? Because now you could be on your desktop and request to speak on Twitter Space. But when I click the heart, I don't see the hand raised. I just see a wave. So that's why I didn't pick my hand. So that's the difference.
Oh, I didn't see your hand raised at all.
I know they don't have the hand raised icon if you're on Twitter Space from your desktop, but I could request to talk. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, maybe I don't know. Maybe they don't have it because
I'm too scared to go off because sometimes it'd drop me off of your space and then I have to go on my other account. So
okay, well, if you want to speak, then just go ahead and just, I guess, wave the hand a couple times so I can see it and I'll get to you.
Okay.
All righty. Guys, real quick, I want to touch up on this quick short article about the New York reparations and everything that's going on with that. We have an individual, Divine. We have Divine up in the spot as well too, and hopefully he'll get a chance. When he gets a chance, he'll come up here and speak on it as well too. Divine from Brooklyn, so we definitely look forward to hearing what Divine has to say about this issue. And just to let everybody know, the spaces is kind of, like I said, we having some issues down here as well too with the weather. We're on the not tornado, but tropical storm and hurricane warning. We'll have a hurricane here by Wednesday, so we've been having a little bit of bad weather today as well too. So if I freeze up or whatever and I have to restart the space over, guys, I'm letting you know I will go ahead and do that. But we have been having some issues with the weather, so definitely just giving everybody a heads up. We're definitely going to have a hurricane or tornado. Why do I keep saying tornado? Damn. Hurricane and tropical storm on one side of the state. We're going to have a hurricane on another side of the state. We're going to have a tropical storm. So welcome to the crazy world of Floridians. So that's what's going on. Divine, I see you up here. I'm going to go ahead and touch up on this article real quick, Divine, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let you get it in there as well too. So give me 1 second, and definitely shout out DJ. I see you up in here, Ray. What's up? What's up, well, Ray? Of course, you already was up in here, Ray. Let me give a shout out real quick to Kimberly. Kimberly, thank you for your contribution on Cash App. But let me go ahead and touch up on this real quick, guys. Hey, DJ, can you hear me? Let's see the DJ here.
I can hear you, bro.
Yeah, I'm here, bro. I'm just on the road. I ain't saying too much, but what's up, everybody? Just start up.
Okay. Well, Ray, I'm going to go to the actual article and read it. It's a quick article, so let me know if you can hear me. When I get there, I ask if you can hear me, just so, because sometimes you go to these actual sites and this stuff freezes up. So like I said, we already having some issues with the weather down here. So I'm going to go ahead and touch up on that real quick. And then will Divine feel free to jump up in here as well too. So let me go ahead and get that. It's a very short article. And both of the articles tonight are up in the Jumbotron as well, guys. Both of the articles for the space are up in the Jumbotron, and the same with everybody on YouTube. The articles are up in the actual description as well too, guys. So the articles are up in the actual description as well. Can you hear me, Ray, still?
Yeah, you good, bro.
All right. It's titled Reparations Commission Bill Sponsors to Take Public Tour on the Road. Lawmakers this session passed legislation that would establish a commission to look into potential reparations for slavery in New York. Now the bill sponsors are pushing for the governor to sign it and taking their message across the state. Senator James Sanders Jr., a Queens Democrat who sponsored the legislation, told Capitol tonight they want to take this to every nook and cranny that our great state has and meet people where they are as they push for the bill. The legislation would establish a commission of 9 people, with 3 each selected by the governor, assembly, and senate. The 9-member commission will be required to meet 6 months after being chosen, with the report due 1 year later. California's Reparation Commission put forward a plan that recommends $500 billion in payments. In comparison, New York state budget amounts to over $200 billion. On this issue, Sanders says, while we appreciate other states, we lead in our own right, adding, we're looking for things that are substantial, but we're not really interested in breaking the bank. One goal of the commission is to educate the public on the issue, which Sanders says may close a racial divide on reparations. According to statistics from the Pew Research Center, just 18% of white Americans support reparations compared to 77% of Black Americans. A public forum was recently held in Harlem with plans for more in Ithaca and Rochester. We want to take it to every audience they can, Sanders says. The bill has not yet been delivered to the governor. Once it arrives, the governor will have 10 days, excluding Sunday, to sign or veto the measure. If the governor does not act on the legislation in the allotted 10 days, the measure is vetoed through a mechanism known as pocket veto. All righty. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead. I see Dana, she's using her other profile. So Dana, I see you up in here as well too. Divine, did you want to touch up on any of this right now?
Absolutely. Good evening, brother. Thank you for using your platform to bring awareness to what's going on with us reparationists here in New York. So I just want to say honors for using your platform. Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. And also up in the Jumbotron, just to let everybody know, Divine has some information up there. Guys, definitely check it out. It's called The Action. It's up on the left-hand side of the actual Jumbo and the Jumbo screen. So, guys, check out the Jumbo screen tonight. There's a lot of information in there for you guys to go ahead and act on. Not to cut you off, Divine. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your point.
Nah, brother, you are perfectly fine. So, yes, as brother said, in the Jumbotron, I posted 2 links. For now, definitely be looking to post some more as the conversation gets more in depth. But as of right now, we have the call to action up there in coalition with the National Coalition of Churches for Reparations. We have a call to action for the state of New York. Read through that. Is 4 simple steps that any and everybody can do. The other link that I put into the Jumbotron was the petition for our disaggregation campaign here in New York as well. We are looking to get the demographic of Black/African American, which is everybody with melanin in New York. We want to get that disaggregated in the same way that disaggregated the AAPI community. So that has already been signed, sealed, and delivered in New York. So we understand that a precedent has been set. So there is no no answer that we will accept for that disaggregation campaign. So we're just looking for everybody to support that, sign it, share it out with people that are in New York, that are outside New York, because we understand that if we can get that done here, we can set the precedent nationwide to finally get our people disaggregated and recognized as the specific ethnic group that we are. So to the article, to the last part first, where they talked about the 10 days and the pocket veto, right? So if you go up to the Jumbotron and when you get a chance to look at the call to action, what I want to make sure is evidently clear, and I'm glad this space is being recorded for those that are not here to be able to listen to later, we are not looking for this bill to reach the level with which we have to wait for a pocket veto. We are asking the governor to veto this bill right now, right away. And the more of us that participate in this campaign, now we can get her to take a look at this bill, look at our concerns, which I will go through in this space, and veto this bill so that we can get a true reparations bill at the New York State level, if we're going to have one at all. And I'll expound on that as well, that particular concept. But as of right now, what I would like to read really quickly, what's not in that article, and what they mostly leave out of this conversation around the bill is the actual language of this bill. So I'm reading directly from the Senate Bill 1163A, that's Senate Bill 1163A. And it states, an act to acknowledge the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and humanity of slavery in the city of New York and the state of New York, to establish the New York State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies, to examine the institution of slavery, subsequently de jure and de facto racial and economic discrimination against people of African descent, and the impact of these forces on living people of African descent, again, and to make determinations regarding compensation, and providing for the repeal of such provisions upon expiration thereof. And so here is the problem that we have with this bill, and that we have as an organization, so the organization that I represent, I'm the president of the U.S. Freedmen Project here in New York, and we have educated the New York State legislators on this fact, but they decide to go forward with it anyway. And the biggest issue is this: they promote it as a bill for reparations, that is going to address the cruelty, brutality, and humanity of slavery, and it does that. But what they leave out is that they've crowbarred in everybody of African descent in New York will be able to make a claim, state a claim, and get some level of redress based on the parameters that the task force gets to decide. And what we believe will happen at this point in time is that when and if a commission gets convened with this language, with this bill, with the people that get a chance to pick them, based on the parameters of this bill, we believe that the individuals that get on the task force will make sure that because of their ideologies and flat blackness, they will almost ensure that people of African descent receive a piece of this quote-unquote reparations bill, thus making it, in our opinion, an of African descent equity bill. And so at that point, it no longer becomes reparations. And the second part, before I take a breath, is this. The only two outcomes based on the language of this bill are these. The first one is that they define of African descent, which is not defined in our American legislative context. And they say, well, everyone of African descent is black people. At that point, it becomes a race-based policy that's looking for set-asides and restorative justice, quote unquote, based on race, and that becomes unconstitutional. The second thing which happens is that they're going to say, well, African descent is not race-based. And at that point, everybody from the Middle East and North African region of Africa can apply. We have people like Charlize Theron and Elon Musk can apply. And we actually had an individual who was East Indian, whose parents migrated to Uganda, had him there, and he is also of African descent, and he said so on the floor when they were making the vote for the bill. So it either becomes something that's race-based, that's unconstitutional, or it becomes a universal program like Providence, Rhode Island, where you have white folks that can apply for reparations based on socioeconomic parameters because they could not corner it off based on race. And I'll rest there for a second.
All right. Thank you, Divine. I guess I want to ask you: is there a in terms of the reparations? Because we know in California they have, I guess, you have a certain time limit and stuff like that. In terms of a time frame that you're trying to actually go by, is there a certain time frame that you guys is it just pretty much all descendants of chattel slavery? Are we talking about 1870? You had to be here in 1870 or 1900, anything like that? Is a specific time that would, you have to be here in order to actually be eligible for the actual reparations which you guys are trying to set up?
Great question. And so what we understand that, and this is the gift and the curse of these local reparations initiatives, right? Because state to state, the parameters with which you're talking about, especially we're talking about time periods, they're going to start to vary because everybody's relationship with this country and with slavery, state to state, municipality to municipality, is very different. And so I understand that in California, Dr. Shirley Weber talked about, well, we should also, so that we don't leave anybody out, we should also put in the fact of anybody that was living in California or in America before the year 1900 or before the 19th century, because there's a group of quote-unquote free people of color that even though they may not have been enslaved, at that point in time, they were subject to essentially the 12 years a slave rule, right? The Fugitive Slave Acts, that you could have been someone that was born free and still face the threat of enslavement because you were black in the country at that time. And so, but at this point in time, and just my personal opinion on that type of language is this: in order for somebody's entire lineage to show only free people of color, let's say they had a bunch of free people of color in their lineage, at this point in time, in 2023, for their entire genealogical tree to show nothing but free people of color, they would have to have been in some special bubble or enclave where they interact with no one else, none of our other ancestors that were free from enslavement in 1863 by the Emancipation Proclamation, and 1865 by the 13th Amendment, and never commingled with anyone else. And so when you have that kind of language, I understand why it was put in, but at this point, I do not believe that type of language is necessary, because of that would be the next level of hypergamy. But in the instance that those people do exist, I understand that type of language being added. The issue here in New York for making that type of a time period, whatever that time period would be, remember, New York has a special relationship with Black immigration. And so as early as, really the early 1900s, we've had individuals, some of them are well known, some of them not well known. We can just take Garvey, and when Garvey came over as a Black immigrant, as a Jamaican immigrant, we understand there we had individuals that do not have a legacy of enslavement in America in their lineage, but were here at certain points in time. So in that way, we believe that is something that the task force would and should be able to look at to see what the timeline parameters would be. But from the outset, we also believe that the community of eligibility has to be the American freedmen, those individuals who had ancestors that was enslaved and emancipated in this country.
All right, thank you. Now I can imagine with New York, like you're saying, being a melting pot as well too, and you have a bunch of different Black people up in that area, non-Black Americans, but Black people. Is there a major kickback that you get from some of the black people who are descendants of immigrants that's in the country that say in the actual part of New York saying, you know what, we've been here for a long time, and people see us, the police see us, they treat us just like any other black person. We have to deal with racism. We have to deal with all this and that or whatever. Are you guys getting a major pushback from some of the actual black people, non-black Americans up there in the New York area when you start talking about the actual reparation discussion?
So I will say this. So the short answer to that is yes. The medium-sized answer to that is hell yes. And the long answer to that is that we're getting pushback not only from the black immigrants that are here in New York that have been here for decades. We're getting pushback from our own people who are elected officials that have fallen in love, if you will, and have been conditioned to acquiesce to this coalition, if you will, to aggregate power. Like in their mind, they believe, even when it's not being said by Caribbean, Indo-continental Africans that are in power or are aggregating power, even when it's not being said, you have who we call the American freedmen, who we have American freedmen politicians that by default, their default setting is to say, no, let's not go against this group or that group. Let's find a way to work together. And in that way, even when it's not nefarious, they have joined into the fray of silencing our voices and our ability and our autonomy to advocate for ourselves and our specific demographic. Like just right now, what's going on in New York with everything that's happening with illegal immigration. You have individuals that are in power and or used to be in power, and they're running with the narrative that, hey, if you're not Native American, all of us are immigrants, so we should have a sympathy toward these illegal immigrants and allow them to come in, cut the line, get into hotels while you still have citizens sleeping on the streets, get all types of foods and set-asides that they're wasting and throwing away, and or just continue to fund this until it gets figured out some way, somehow, but we can't advocate for specific set-asides and resources, and in the case of the American freedmen, reparations. And so it's a pushback from all sides. In fact, I said this before, and I'll say it again on the record, and especially in light of what's going on with the whole commemoration of the March on Washington, and me believing personally that none of these political actions and decisions happen in a vacuum. What we've seen and what we've had is that all the organizations that were historically set up to advocate for our people, those quote-unquote legacy organizations, like the NAACP, all branches, like the Urban League, like the National Action Network, all of them signed on to that initiative and that policy and that bill in the New York City Council to allow non-citizens that were in the city for 30 days to be able to vote in local elections. Regardless of all the data that showed how much it would displace the Black American, the American freedmen voting power in our areas, because most of those people who are forced to our local areas and our districts, they still went ahead with it and signed on to it to okay that. And so we have a situation where there are no organizations in New York City and or New York State that I have come across that advocate for our lineage specifically outside of, and specifically legislatively, outside of the U.S. Freedmen Project.
I have to go ahead and give Freeman credit because and we had a space a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and it was talking about the same thing. It was about the reparations up in Boston, and you had a number of freedmen up in Boston, that was moving the needle up in there as well too, trying to go ahead and the same issue you guys are having in New York about the actual and it was also like you said, you had a bunch of Black Americans, what we would consider Black Americans descendants of chattel slavery. You had a good number of them that felt that, hey, it's only right that everybody that's Black be included in the reparations. And then you had quite a few freedmen that was up there in the area, and the freedmen was like, no, this needs to be solely for Black Americans. So, for Black Americans descendants of chattel slavery out there. So you had this is something that in those major northern urban areas, New York, Boston, that especially these areas that are considered like giant melting pots, you guys seem to be having that situation. And I'll even take it a step further. What you're saying that you have Black people, even Black people, descendants of chattel slavery. It doesn't matter really what state you in. A lot of them really toe that line for immigration, even though, and we've had spaces on that where the actual statistics break down and show you that, illegal immigration in particular really hurts unskilled, the Black male labor market. But a lot of our people, like you said, they believe that, hey, only Native Americans, only the true descendants, or only the true natives of this country, and everybody else immigrated, whether it was forced immigration or they decided to come on their own. So, everybody else is really an immigrant in this country, and only Native Americans. So we should all sit here and support immigration no matter what, even though it hurts us in the long run. So I get exactly what you're saying, because we've had spaces on illegal immigration. We've had spaces on, what it does to Black men. We've had all kind of different spaces, and a lot of Black people in the Democratic Party, Black people that are actually descendants of slavery in this country, they go along and they champion it as well too. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and in particular, I know too, being in New York City, let's be honest, you guys are in the actual you're in the mecca in terms of the America of being the actual in the Pan-African Center as well too. So everybody up there gonna say, hey, we all one people and this and that or whatever. So whatever you go through, I go through. If you get it, I should get it as well too. But people not realizing that, hey, you've been getting that from the beginning. When you came to this country, anything that was set aside for Black Americans, and that's no disrespect to any of my Caribbean brothers or any of my African brothers, you have to understand that you've been also getting that as well too, solely because your skin, that you're Black, you've been able to get any and everything that I can get, even though there's certain things in this country you can get that I can't get, because you can say that, hey, they can say, hey, you coming from this place, you're coming from that land or whatever. So, I understand exactly how you feel on that part right there, because like I said, we're seeing it everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, and I want to say something. I'm glad you brought it up, and I'll use it as a segue. But the first thing I want to say is this. We understand that for a long time it's been called, especially here in New York City, it's been called the melting pot, right? But what we found is the numbers are in. And Black Americans, the American freemen, we're in the melting pot, but we're being melted in the pot. And so what's happening is, and I said this in another space, there are no huge numbers of us coming over from a different country to replenish our ranks. We are it. That's it. We're homegrown. That's it. There are no other huge populations of us from other countries that can get to come in like these other populations. So what that is automatically off the back is, that's not hate. That's not divisiveness. What that is that's a difference in political priorities. Because you have individuals that are immigrants and or children of immigrants that require different policies from the people that built the country and have been systemically marginalized since emancipation. Those are two completely different conversations. And what has happened is that, and I won't even say Pan-Africanism, because I'm going to make the distinction in a second, but I'll say modern day Pan-Africanism convinced our people that the Black immigrants or the children of Black immigrants and those of us that are homegrown that never immigrated and have been systemically marginalized and economically deprived since emancipation, we are the same and our fight is the same. And so what my personal view on that is that when you take two similar claims that are similar but not the same, and you merge them together, you're going to get a situation where somebody gets the short end of the stick. Like let's call it the blade of white supremacy. what's happening is that there are people that are getting nicked by that blade, slashed by that blade, the equivalent of a paper cut by that blade, and the American freemen that have been mortally stabbed by that blade. And what we're doing is we're advocating for the triage to operate in the way it's supposed to operate, and take those that have been harmed and hurt the most and fix them first and separately. Because if you just go around the ER room and give out Band-Aids to everybody, because we've all been quote-unquote hurt by the blade of white supremacy, the large majority of those that immigrated over here, that Band-Aid will be able to either hold them over or heal their wound. While if you put a Band-Aid on a mortal stab wound, we're going to bleed out. And it's going to look like you did what you're supposed to do. It's going to look like you helped all of us, and you didn't. And the reason why I say modern day Pan-Africanism before I take another breath is this. Pan-Africanism, before Narcan and Cobra got into the game in around the 1980s, you got Marcus Garvey, and we know what the stuff he was doing. All that stuff is now documented with his letters to white supremacists and the mission drift and him trying to take us to Africa instead of continuing the fight of Cali House. But after that, when we talk about Malcolm X, we talk about Queen Mother Moore, all of these other Pan-Africanists believed that reparations was to go to the descendants of those whose ancestors were enslaved and emancipated in this country, while also advocating for Black immigrants that came over so that they did not suffer the same things that we did. They were always separate claims. Queen Mother Moore, a staunch Pan-Africanist, had two organizations, one for the descendants of slaves and the other for, who she called Ethiopians, those African individuals that were coming over, and she advocated for them separately. It was never pushed together to make us all the same until Narcan and Cobra comes in. And so what's happening is that you have the history of this fight for justice, the history of our justice claim, of what was done to our lineage, of what was promised and sabotaged, being co-opted and pushed through the lens, through the beliefs, through the religion of modern day Pan-Africanism. And what's coming out on the other side is what I just read, of African descent. What's coming out on the other side is, we're all Black the same. What's coming out on the other side is, hey, if reparations doesn't look like what I think my religion of Pan-Africanism should look like, then I'm going to sabotage all the efforts of you lineage-based reparations that are trying to get reparations in the spirit of what reparations have always been. And that's a problem. But that's what we're up against, because as I've said before, and I'll say it again on the record, my belief, based on what I've seen, based on who is in the halls of power and who gets to meet with those in the halls of power, I believe that modern day Pan-Africanism is a tool of left-wing white supremacy.
All right. Thank you, Divine. Black Pressure, you had your hand up. Did you and I see you put it down. Did you want to say something, Pressure? I know you might be driving. You good or what? You there, Pressure? We'll come back to Pressure. I think he must put his hand down for a reason. So we'll get back to you, Black Pressure. Whenever you want to speak, go ahead and put your hand back up. Like I told everybody earlier, in the Jumbotron, there's a bunch of information that Divine has up there, and that I put also up there that the First Lady of Love has up there concerning the actual New York reparations bill. Guys, go ahead and definitely take a look at some of that information and help out as much as you can. So definitely go ahead and up in the Jumbotron, look at that information and help out as much as you can. Like I told people earlier, also Florida, we're under a hurricane and tropical storm warning. So we're probably we're expecting a hurricane to come Wednesday. So I can tell you definitely there'll be no Twitter space Wednesday. I do it Monday through Thursday. So Wednesday and I probably would say even Thursday, probably there'll be no Twitter space. And as of right now, it's kind of iffy to see how tomorrow is going to go as well too. So this may be the only Twitter space for the week for Newstoter, guys. We'll keep you informed. We're gonna get hit on one side of the state, probably by a tropical storm. On the other side, we're gonna get hit by actual hurricane as well too. So we'll see what's up. We'll go ahead and we'll try to hold it down as much as possible, guys. So I don't know what's up, but we'll definitely see what's up. We'll try to go ahead and see how everything looks for tomorrow. But at this point in time, I can definitely tell you Wednesday is a no-go. Thursday, I wouldn't bank on it as well too, and we'll see by tomorrow how everything looks as well too. So just keeping everybody informed. So if you don't see me, and if you don't see me definitely posting anything on any of the actual news that you guys normally see me posting on Wednesday, definitely know it's because of the actual hurricane. So just to let everybody know exactly what's what. Let me go ahead and get to Dana, then I get to concern, and I'll get to no cap as well too. So go ahead, Dana.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I appreciate the bond, coming up and letting everybody know what's going on in New York. New York is a hot mess. I call New York the new shithole right now. But the question I want to ask him, and let me just touch on the niggas for Trump. I didn't read too much into that. I did see the T-shirt, but apparently, since Trump mugshot, black men and black people in general, or specifically black men, have been supporting him. He has had a 20% increase in black men voters, and that's because it's relatable. And again, he knows how to work the media. Um, and I think more black people should start leaving the Democrat plantation, whether you go to Republican or anywhere else, just leave them. But I want to ask Devon a question. Speaking of New York, because Charles Barron, he has had reparations on the state floor for years, since the beginning of early 2000s, and it just fell on deaf ears. And the problem that I have is black people in general, our lack of accountability that we refuse to recognize. Has there been, outside of Cobra, NARC, the Urban League, because we already know they're bought and sold, but has there been any grassroots organization that is catering for reparations for American descendants of slavery? And some people like to say freedmen as well. Freedmen. Has there ever been any grassroots organizations existing in New York pushing reparations?
Great question. So I will say this to speak, to kind of loop it all together. And let me answer the second part of your question first. As far as any grassroots organization pushing for reparations and galvanizing the people in the way that we are currently, the answer to that is no. Not in New York anyway, and I'm speaking for New York. So in New York, no. In regards to Charles Barron, so Charles Barron is interesting because Charles Barron has a reputation for fighting for the people, right? I will give him that, and so he has galvanized the people at that level, and and deserves respect for that. And for the most part, what has happened though is I'm not sure how or why he was unable to take what he did in the city of Brooklyn largely. Maybe he's known, most places because he's one of those old school Pan-Africans. I'm not sure why he was unable to take that momentum and build a reparations movement with all of his political cachet, with all of his street cred. I have no idea why that has not been able to happen. I do not want to go as far as to say he really didn't want reparations, because, and I don't want to go that far, but what I will say is that I've seen for the thing that Charles Barron does want, Charles Barron knows how to galvanize the people to get. So that's the only, and this is just an assumption, not based on any facts. That's the only conclusion I can come to, that there was probably a level of reticence, a level of, I don't think they're really going to do this thing. And so he probably just was pushing it in symbolism only. The one thing I can say that has been confirmed with conversations of the politicians that were in office and in power at the time that they, quote unquote, allowed this thing to go through that Charles Barron did, they allowed it to go through knowing that it had no hope of passing the Senate, because at the time, he was in the assembly. I think he believes he's now in the city council, but him and his wife have bounced back and forth between the city council and the assembly.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So you know that. So what has happened is that at the time he was in the assembly, the powers that be behind the scenes already knew that at the state level in the Senate, they weren't going to let it pass. So they gave him that for all the hard work that he did and that he.
What did they give him? What's going on now? Because I would say this, because I actually spoke with him and interviewed him a couple of years ago. He did not have support, number one, from Black people in New York, particularly in the boroughs. Now his district, he's in Brooklyn. He has a district in Brooklyn, and part of that, I think the Pinky House is in his district. That's mixed. It's not just Black Americans. It's got a lot of Caribbeans. So as a politician, you have to cater to your constituents, right? However, when he was the one that drafted that reparations, and you're right, in the Senate, New York State was not trying to hear that shit. At the same time, Black people were not supporting it. Now, fast forward, right? 2 years, let's say 10 years later, because he's been doing that for a minute. If you don't have the support, listen, you still got to do your job to your constituents first, and that's what he's been doing. However, when it comes to reparations, we didn't really start going on this reparations trail until EDOS, Yvette Carnell, and Tone started really pushing it more, and then NARC and then Cobra, because they were quiet for decades. That's when they want to peek their head up and like, oh, this is getting some traction. Let's get in order, because it's a money grab. All of this is a money grab, and they have a lot of support from Black immigrants, right, who are homeowners, who own businesses, who have connections in other countries. Because the IBW just had a big conference back in April, and they had just about every diplomat from all these other countries, whether it's South America and different countries in Africa, attend. For what? For the fight of reparations here in America? So the thing is, if we are not supporting our politicians that are actually trying to do something specifically for us, it is going to fall flat and allow that door open for everybody else to grab at it. And they're going to come in organized and ready to go.
So, okay. I do not know this one.
No, you could go ahead.
Right. So everything you said is true, and I agree. But here's the caveat that I'll push. Like I said, I don't know why he hasn't been able to galvanize the people in 10 years, because he's been pushing that for a long time. Here's what I will tell you: is that in the short period of time that the U.S. Freedmen Project has been advocating for reparations at the local level here in the state of New York, the amount of support that we have been able to galvanize in a year, I can tell you that if we were doing this for 10 years, we would have a movement. We would have an army of people in New York City fighting for reparations and pushing for that, because that's the goal, and that's what we're going to do 10 years from now anyway. So what I will say is this: with Charles Barron, in regards to reparations, because again, outside of his other work, I have no critiques, but in regards to reparations, Charles Barron is one of those Pan-Africanists that I talked about that is pushing reparations through that lens. His bill, the one that passed the assembly that they knew was not going to go anywhere, was the original bill that caught the attention of our organization, and that we did a public call to action right here on Twitter and in the street to get the people together to say, hey, we got to stop this thing because this is bullshit. So the bill that he was pushing, that they allowed to pass, knowing it wouldn't go anywhere, they recycled it, gave it to Assemblywoman Salages, who is a Haitian American, just saying that for context so we all know who the players are and where they're from. She tried to get it passed through the assembly, and our little organization that could, along with all the family here that participated, we got that bill stopped. Without us, that bill was going to go through because they understood that that bill would never produce true reparations. It had all the Pan-African players not only backing it, but the bill had IBW 21 in Cobra and the December 12th movement written into the bill to be the individuals that make up the task force to make the decisions on what reparations should look like and who it should go to. But even more importantly and nefarious than that, the way the bill was written, each three of those organizations got a chance to get 2 people each on the task force. So that's 2 for Incova, 2 for IBW 21, 2 for the December 12th movement. 2 for 6. 6 people alone, the way the bill was written, gives them a quorum so that nobody else could oppose what they came up with. So in essence, Charles Barron wrote a bill that would give Pan-Africanists unilateral power to make whatever decisions they wanted on reparations, to give it to whoever they wanted to give it to, or to take whatever form they wanted to take, and they don't believe in cash payments, and they wanted it to become a fund that they could assign people to be over and disperse it like the fraternal people that they believe that they are. And so we got that bill stopped, and then from there we said, hey, let's take what happened in California, let's take the collective experience from everybody that's doing this actual work, and let's get something together. Let's shoot for the moon. Let's write legislation. And our organization wrote legislation, went around with hat in hand to all these other politicians that was not trying to hear us, was not trying to feel us as the new kid on the block, has no money backing us. And we went to each and every one and constantly had meetings. And finally we found our champion, and that is member Nikki Lucas. And she said, you know what? I'm going to take this bill. What up? Let's do this. So we got the bill. We got invited to Albany to teach on reparations, the only organization that taught on reparations that entire weekend. And then we went to every legislator, had multiple meetings, brought in California, brought in Dr. Shirley Weber, brought in the testimony of the constitutional lawyer Chemerinsky, and told them why what they're trying to do right now is unconstitutional and would not produce true reparation on the local level. They ignored all that and then passed the bill that we see today that we're asking the governor to veto because it is a race-based policy or produce a universal policy, and in both, reparations is not the end result. But along the way, and here's where we at, and this is part of the call to action because this is important. Along the way, because Nikki Lucas is a savvy politician and did whatever she did on the back end, that she did, before the session was over, she got the legislation that we wrote an actual bill number. So for the first time in New York State history, there is a bill on the table that calls for reparations for our lineage specifically, solely, and exclusively. And that is what we're asking people to sign on to. Go to the call to action, hit the governor up, let her know to veto that bill, whether you believe in our legislation or not. Read the legislation. This is not blind support that we're asking for. You can read it, critique it, do what you feel. As long as you keep it respectful and classy, we good. We can even have I just want to say on the table. Let me end right here.
Yeah, and real quick, Dana, go ahead, Divine, and then Dana, real quick, because then we're gonna go ahead and get to some of the other speakers. Go ahead, Divine.
Yeah. So we're asking that all those that support lineage-based reparations for our demographic read through the bill. If it's to your liking and it's to your what's the word I'm looking for? If you condone it, then tell the governor, listen, veto this one and take a look at A07828, because that is what true reparations looks like, and this is what we're supposed to be pushing in New York if we're looking to get reparations right.
No, I just want to say, and because I got to go and do my show, but I love what you're doing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You saying that your organization is like a year ago, y'all came together, created this organization, and a lot of things that you were able to get done. I think people need to understand being organized, hard work, and dedicated, putting that time in to get the solutions and the resolution that you're doing now. So I started following you, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch on the back end to get more information about your organization, because that is something that people need to do and stop just talking, but actually doing. So I respect what you're doing in your organization, and I'm willing to support you as well. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dana, as well, too. Real quick, guys, up in the Jumbotron, the Newstoter YouTube channel is up in the actual Jumbotron. If you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's in the middle of the actual Jumbotron. So if you're in the space and you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely go ahead and subscribe. We also have the Cash App in there, $Newstoter, $Newstoter. Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black American news media curation platform today in America. Once again, Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black American news media curation platform today in America. Guys, make sure you visit Newstoter.com to stay up to date on breaking news in Black America. That's Newstoter.com. Go there daily, find what's going on in Black America, whether it's politics, news, education, lifestyle, culture, entertainment. Newstoter.com keeps you up to date on the latest news in Black America. You can support us also on Venmo or PayPal. That's up in the Jumbotron as well, too. Once again, the Cash App is $Newstoter. Let me go ahead and get to Don. Then I'm going to get to No Cap and Friedman as well, too. Don, go ahead and unmute your mic. How you doing?
Hey, hi, Newstoter. Thank you for the space and all the work you do to bring us the news and build your platform. I know it's hard work. It takes a lot of dedication.
Thank you, sister.
I definitely want to acknowledge that. Niggas for Trump. I saw that man a year ago or last time around and didn't take it seriously. I looked him up, looked at his site. It looked like it had been put together by a 5-year-old, and look where we are now. Look where we are now. Actually, I don't know what to say for myself. I was in Costco today, relate to 2 white men. I'm like, what is going on? We're sitting up there talking about food inflation and immigration. Oh, Lord. So, niggas with Trump. It's a movement, I guess, and it's growing. I really don't appreciate the intersection of criminality with, Trump and the Black American community. It's so cliche. But, there is an element of us that, will stroll into the folds. There's an element of all of our societies that, don't pay a lot of attention and are actually moved by things like that. So be it. If I vote for him, it won't be because of that, but whatever, as long as we get the job done. And I do believe that is the job to be done, is to get Biden out. And I'm also, last comment about the first part is I'm wondering the origins of that group. Obviously, I heard someone say that they may be more of an immigrant-based group, but whatever. The New York Reparations bill, I have a couple of questions about that, but I don't want to well, like I said, it is the conversation. But I didn't want to necessarily tie up the stage with a back and forth. But I was wondering 2 things. Well, not 2 things. I know there's something called the pocket veto. But if she does not, the governor does not actually sign the bill, even if she ignores it, I think it goes into effect. And so I'm wondering if you guys, I'm not wondering, I'm sure you have a strategy. And so I'm hoping you're working on a strategy for that. And I wanted to read something out loud in the spirit of a strategy in the event that happens. But there's a lot of work that's going to be, that really takes it to a different angle. But it seems like that, there's probably a high probability that something like that could happen. But Denise Long put out this piece. I'm not going to read all of it, but I did want to read the part about New York and the pushback that should come if this bill does pass and how to address it. A lot of us have been talking about moving, elevate the movement into the, the courtroom. into complaints, etc. So this is the Office of Congressional Ethics hit with formal ethics complaint concerning co-sponsors of H.R. 4321 and in demand for investigation of widespread 14th Amendment violations that fuel mass murders and hate crimes. And if you recall, that bill relates to Senator, or I think he's a representative, Brian Babin out of Texas, who wanted to pass the no bailout for reparations bill for states that attempted to effect a reparations program, and he has 14 co-sponsors. So Denise's organization, Coalition of Concerned Freedmen, got a couple of quotes from some of the players in the field. This one in particular is, quote, about New York. And I quote, "Not to be outdone by Chicago's unequal representation, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been forced to declare a state of emergency to accommodate New York City's inappropriate sanctuary status in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty, a monument intended as a commemoration of America's defeat of the Confederacy and breaking the chains of chattel slavery. The state of New York's commitment to funding law-breaking foreigners while ignoring the descendants of U.S. chattel slaves and descendants of free Negroes violates 14A. According to Rashid Littlejohn, the New Negro Republic Lineage Society, a 501c7 organization based in New York City metropolitan area, whose mission is to restore, preserve, and uplift the legacy and quality of life of American Negro people. The actions, he said, the actions of Mayor Adams and President Biden also violate the U.S. commitments to enforce the UN Genocide Convention as outlined in the Proxmire Act of 1987. And I'm just going to skip to, under the Proxmire Act, these violations of unequal protection under the United States Constitution activate the Genocide Convention schedule of fines at $500,000 to $1 million per case finding. That is an estimated $5 million in damages per descendant, considering the causes of action that show our Negro people have been subjected to multiple counts of each of the 5 acts of genocide. So I won't continue on, but he goes on to point out the unemployment, the 12.2% unemployment in New York City being doubled, and some other harms. So I would dare say that you should use or consider that approach of the violation, them pushing some All Lives Matter type of legislation as a violation of the 13th and 14th Amendments. And I'm sure that's what you've already been doing. And Prime, you're such a little troll. But anyway, I would check out that article and also to understand how that is scalable as well, and that we should be definitely taking that course of action, especially in light of pieces of legislation like H.R. 4321, what's going on in Florida, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my submission for the moment, unless I need to slap back at Puerto Rican Prime on the stage.
All right, everybody, let's be nice tonight because we got Divine's coming in here. He's dropping a lot of information, so let's definitely not do the personal. I know you guys, I know a bunch of y'all don't get along, so let's try to go ahead because this brother came in here and he's been on fire.
I just want to say, don't put me in the category of people that don't.
Okay, all right, okay.
Don't put me in that category.
Okay, everybody, I get what you're saying. We won't put anybody in that category, but we're going to go ahead, and I appreciate you. Thank you, Don, definitely for coming in here and being very informative as well, too. I just want to go ahead and keep it on the actual topic tonight, fam. That's all I want to do because, like I say, Divine was nice enough to come in here and break this thing down and everything. So he's definitely He's been on point, so let's just go ahead. I want to go ahead and keep that energy focused on something positive as well too. I don't, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to get sidetracked. So let me go ahead and get to no cap. I believe it's no cap.
Yeah, thank you, Newstoter. And
What's up now?
yes, Black Love, Black Pride. Let me tell you this. I'll say this. As a lineage, all these people should be considered and looked at as immigrants. Most of them are immigrants.
No cap. Can we get you up a little bit louder if possible? Can I get you a little bit louder?
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
About the same. You got any headphones on and your ear?
Okay. All right, you got me better now?
That'll work. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what I said is that we are some of the oldest citizenry of America. And these people that have, I don't know, political power to make decisions should be lobbying us. They should be at our doors asking us what we want. That's how it should be. However, it's not that way. And we have to fight for it to be that way. We have to go out with a sense of understanding that we actually made this United States. United States. Not just talking about the sweat equity, but also talking about during wartime. We made this the United States. It was our ancestors who fought for their own freedom that made this the United States instead of the South seceding. So with that in mind, whenever we see the politicians post or say things that are adverse to what we desire, we need to speak up against it and speak the truth on it, because it's been an absence of truth. I thank Divine for all that he's doing and the work that he's done, and I want more of that. I'm out here in Cali, and I'll tell you this straight up. When it comes to us fighting against each other, there's a time for us to stop doing all that. We recognize it, and I can feel it in the air, and I know this for certain, okay? We will win, because the thing is, we're unavoidable. We are so much the fabric of this United States that the United States would sink without us. The United States harps and feeds off of every breath that we breathe. We are the culture. So I'll say this to the room of guests here that are listening in. Every move for reparations that we can make, let's do it. We need the lobbying power. We need true representation. And that true representation and lobbying power will be gained with reparations, not before. The topic of the room, as far as niggas for Trump, I'm not with it. It's low class, low budget, and it's denigrating to us. We bear no charge and no oath of loyalty to any party. They owe us. All of them do. And with that, I'm going to fold my chair.
All right. Thank you, No Cap. Thank you, brother, for coming up here. Definitely appreciate that. Let me go ahead and get to Freeman. Freeman, what's going on? How you doing tonight?
Is that me? Freeman? Please, can you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. You go ahead.
It was actually you, Freeman Reparations.
Oh, okay. My bad. My bad. What's up? Newstoter? I'm doing well.
What's up?
What up?
Freeman, you kind of low. Is there any way we can get you a little bit louder?
I can start yelling. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
No, it's just that you're kind of low. I was trying to see if we could get you a little bit louder, but go ahead. If that's as loud as you can get it, go ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. My bad. So, what up? Salute. Appreciate Brother Devon. Thank you, Miss Freeman woman and the Freeman family. So, Devon pretty much summarized it all. I wanted him to just explain how we, the U.S. Freedmen Project, are the only American freedmen advocacy organization that I'm aware of out here in New York that is specifically and exclusively advocating for justice for the American freedmen, policies, protection, resources, and everything in that nature. So great work with that. I wanted him to talk more about the bill that we have drafted and proposed. The language that we have is very specific, and we're trying to avoid all of those racial things or inclusionary terms and things of that nature. So we've done a great job in doing that. So the next step would be to introduce that to the legislators as well as Governor Hochul or whoever is the future governor or future legislators when we do get to that point. um, yeah, as far as this other stuff that Dawn or the Negroes are promoting, I think we do different work. We are talking about reparations. We're talking about policy specifically for American freedmen. I don't want that to be confused or intersected or conflated with what the Nice and the new Negroes are doing because that's not us. We have our own ethnicity and it has nothing to do with race, language, or Negroes or American Negroes or anything like that. We're standing tall on our freedmen status and our American freedmen ethnicity, and we have bills for that um, as well. So I just wanted to make that clear and make that distinction. But yeah, again, Devon, you pointed out the 807828 bill. That is our bill, the American Freedmen Bill is what I like to call it. And it's specific to us. It has a lot of specific policies, and it's for us only. No one else will be included in that. And I also wanted to point out we have an American Freedmen champion in the legislature, and Nikki Lucas, who is an assemblywoman. She is an extension of the U.S. Freedmen Project, and of course, she is an American Freedman. She has, um, I'll say, she even has she's an extension of American Freedmen consciousness, which is what we like to call it. So she stood tall in Albany on the legislative floor, explaining how the reparations and the repair or the state initiatives and equity should be for the American freedmen only. It should not be of African descent. It should not be for people who can trace back to an African ancestor and all that other stuff. So I want to give her respect and her just due because she is our champion and she has been doing great work and working with us and getting our legislation passed. So we have people on the ground, obviously the president, Devon, we got Miss Annette, we have Six, we have myself, Tony. Tony's been busy, but he's still doing the work. He's our numbers guy and another great Freeman conscious representative. But yeah, we're outside and we're getting policies passed. Reparations is most definitely political, so it has to be policies, legislation, and advocacy, and all of the above. And we're standing on our American freedom consciousness. So hopefully y'all can hear me. My bad, Newstoter. I'm always low on here, but hopefully I was loud enough and understandable enough to be heard and understood. So thank you. I land right there. Thank you. Pete.
No problem, Friedman. Definitely. I know you were low, but I still could hear you. I could still get what you were saying as well too. So shout out to you coming up in here as well too, and shout out to all my people. That's out there in the reparations fight. No matter whether you're a freedman, you're a Negro, you're whatever. Shout out to all my people. I know there's some some disagreements on how things should be handled and whatnot, but I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's out there putting in the fight and putting in the work as well too. So I just want to say that much. Go ahead, Freeman.
Yeah, sorry. One more thing. I also wanted to give a shout out to other people that I have seen on the ground. We have met in person and trying to get this work done in other, I'll say, these Pan-African organizations, gathering intel and stuff with Cash and the homie Racer Bo out here in New York City. We're all in New York City right now, and obviously we have the U.S. Freedmen Project, but I wanted to give them their props as well. We are outside and we're proud. We're standing on American freedom. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Now, what's the relationship? And maybe you or Divine can answer me this. What's the relationship with the actual governor up there in New York? Is the governor actually pro reparations or against reparations? What's up with the governor up there?
Great question, and I was going to segue to that anyway because of the statement that Dawn said. I think Brother Clyde covered as far as like the difference between the works that we're doing. So no need to go into more detail on that. We are doing different things at this point in time, and that's okay. But in regards to what she said about the governor being able to, once that bill comes down, to have it proceed forward in a way where when she did not sign it, but does not veto it, it becomes a law automatically. That is true. That is something that we are aware of, and that we have contingency plans for. But I want to make sure I reiterate this for the family that is here and for everybody to hear that can share it with someone else. This is why the call to action is so important. What we're doing behind the scenes, just so everybody's aware, as far as the level with which we can share it, we are in talks with the governor. At this point in time, there is no official position on reparations one way or the next. But what we do know is, based on her Twitter account, is that she is signing other legislation every day and promoting it every day on her Twitter account currently. So we know currently that she's going through all the bills that they passed during the session. And so what I can share is where you guys come in and where all of us come in is the more we reach out. And again, I want to make sure I'm abundantly clear, because we've heard multiple things coming out of different camps. I want to make sure we are crystal clear by the time this conversation's over. I am not begging anybody in here to support the legislation that we have. What I am doing is asking you to stand on your lineage and make sure that this reparations bill that is in there now does not pass. Because regardless of whatever you call yourself, where you sit on the spectrum, what delineating term you prefer, like, or call yourself when you're at your family reunion, the bottom line is that the bill that is on the table does not honor that, period. And so the more noise we make now, letting the governor know that this bill is not calling for true reparations at the local level for our families, for our lineages. They're trying to give our inheritance away to somebody else. The more we get on the phones, the more we email the governor our thoughts on the record, we believe that there is no way she will make the political assessment to say, I'm just going to leave this alone and let it pass. Because then what she will have to deal with is the groundswell that we're creating to take away her plausible deniability. The more of us that call, she will have to be held to account for her non-decision, or for her decision to veto it, or for her decision to sign it. And so what we're doing as a collective, and what we're hoping you do to join us, is to give her the valid reason to veto this bill, with the understanding that she is moving with the will of the people. She is moving with the will of those whose ancestors were enslaved and emancipated in this country and are looking for justice from the state of New York. Because if she understands and she believes and she knows that she has the will of those people in New York and those that are outside of New York, saying we stand with you because this bill does not represent and or respect our ancestors, that will make her decision to veto the bill very easy. And in the situation, in the event that she does not, then she will have to deal with those very same people and be held to account and elections are right around the corner.
All right. Thank you, Divine. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead. I see we got Cash coming up here as well, too. So I'm going to go ahead. If he wants to speak, let him get it in. Real quick, guys, like I said, once again, for those that want to support, if you support Black-owned business, think about supporting Newstoter. Any amount we appreciate, whether that's $1 on Cash App, $ Newstoter, $ Newstoter. Like I say, $1, $2, anything you guys got. We appreciate. We put it towards the platform. Newstoter is the largest Black-owned, Black American news media curation platform today in America. We're more than just Twitter Spaces and podcasts. We're our own actual platform, our own actual media news site. So definitely, for those that want to support, $ Newstoter, $ Newstoter, any amount is appreciated. If it's $1 or $2, we will definitely go ahead and put that to use. Web hosting and anything else as well, to email hosting. So definitely, guys, if you have that and you don't mind supporting, you can definitely go ahead and support on Cash App, $ Newstoter, $ Newstoter. If you do not have a Cash App, the Venmo and PayPal is also up in the Jumbotron. I see we got some new hands up here. So that's my man Original is up here. I'm going to get back to you, Freeman. I want to go ahead and get to some of the new hands as well, too. I see we got Freedmen Women. So definitely want to go ahead and get to them as well, too. So, in fact, go ahead, Freeman. I'll go ahead and let you get it in real quick, and then I'm going to get to the new hands.
No, it's all good. I said what I had to say. I'll wait my turn. I would love to hear from Freeman Woman, who is also a part of the great U.S. Freeman Project. So I'll be patient and wait my turn. Thank you, though.
Okay, no problem, bro. I'm not sure, Original or Freeman Woman. Who had the hand up first? We'll go ladies first.
Yeah, ladies first. I think she had her hand up first.
Okay, how you doing tonight, Freeman Woman?
Hi, I'm good. My name is Annette. I'm from New York City and part of the U.S. Freedmen Project. And, I can just second the talking points that Divine has done very eloquently on the bill and the reparations bill in New York State. And also just emphasize that also that the disaggregation bill is key for freedmen as well, as we want to, going forward, we want to be a separate line item on any type of socioeconomic data that comes out. I guarantee you, if they would do that, unfortunately, our socioeconomic parameters would probably be even worse than they are now, because I think they're skewed, because most of a lot of continental Africans that have come in have more means when they come in to start with. A lot of Caribbeans have, and most of the Black immigrants who come to this country have come since the 90s, and definitely since the 1965 repeal of the 1924 Exclusionary Immigration Act. So that's a must. And, we're not doing something that others aren't doing. It was a Caribbean community in New York that about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, requested that there be separate, an ability to list your separate country, a hyphenated, Jamaican American, Bahamian American on the census. There's been a bill passed in New York State for the API community, Asian American Pacific Islander community. There was another one just passed in Boston that talks about disaggregating ethnic groups. It doesn't mention Black, freedmen, but it does mention Caribbeans and Asians and other people who want to identify what their specific lineage is. So there's no reason why we should have that first and foremost, because frankly, our lineage is different from everybody else's, save Native Americans. There's three groups in this country. There's the ones that were here. There's the ones that were dragged over in the bottom of boats, and everybody else came of their own volition. So we definitely should have our own category. The Office of Management Budget at the federal level is also looking at creating uh, new. Um, I'm sorry, just lost my train of thought. Creating new categories on how they do the census, and a lot of people had a lot of input about that. There needs to be a separate category for descendants of people chattel slavery, whether it's freedmen, whether it's ADOS, whether it's FOPA. But this is something that is trending, for lack of a better word. We're as usual, we're ahead of the trend, but we need to stand proud and firmly on who we are, what we've been through, and what we need. We've luckily had one report that just came out in New York. It was sponsored by the City University of New York was the person, the group who carried it out. But there was a young woman, a sister on the task force with those and fought to have the Black freedmen data listed separately. And that's frankly, the bill's called the Community of Interest. If you want to look it up online, it's probably the first, city statewide bill that I can ever think of, not bill, report that I can ever think of that's listed freedmen separately from, all other Black immigrants, Caribbean, continental Africans. So I think this is very important for us to see where we are in the country, socioeconomic. It's not going to look good, but it is what it is. James Baldwin said you have to know. You may not be able to solve every problem, but you have to know what the problem is before you can even try to solve it. So by not knowing where we stand in this country socioeconomically, we will never be able to demand and get the redress that we should get. It'll be the same, all boats will rise type of legislation that gives money to everybody, underserved, minority, BIPOC, POC, everything, and not give the outside amount to American freedmen. And just as a gentleman said before, we built this country. This country was 188 years, 75% of this country's history, 89 years from 1776 to 75, the 89, 90 years was chattel slavery. The next 90 years were legal discrimination, legal segregation, discrimination, and it went down the rabbit hole, convict leasing. So 188 years of this country's 247-year history, freedmen have lived under this legal and official apartheid. So we need to really stand up, say on a apologetically what we've been through, what our parents have been through, what our grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and a lot of them don't talk about it, but if you do talk to them about it, it wasn't easy. It's not easy now, but we need to really stand up and demand what we know is ours, what should be ours. I'm sure there's a lot of fear about that on the other side, but too bad. You never got anything by compromising before you got into the room. So I'm just calling on everyone, along with Divine and Prime and everybody else, to let the governor know what you think of this bill that's making its way to her desk. That is not true reparations. And reparations is not just for slavery. And I don't want to say just, because slavery was horrendous, but it's also to cover those 90 years of legalized segregation, lynching, everything. And then unfortunately, after the legal part is then repealed and with the Civil Rights Bill, then there's another slavery or you know, institution we have to deal with, and that's the whole criminal justice system. So, no apologies. We have to really start proudly declaring who we are. Our symbol or our logo for U.S. Freedmen Project is those fighters of the 54th Regiment from Massachusetts who put down their shovels and immediately picked up muskets. These were brave people, and I think we're called to be just as brave now. So, again, please call the governor. You'd be surprised how little, what I'll call outreach there is to politicians. And politicians are very comfortable when people don't call them. It's when you call them and start making a little noise, and I would say we've made a little noise. Some of it's a little louder than ever. You can get things done. So I'm just urging everybody to, put on their imaginary musket, whatever it is, and just keep moving forward for, our people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you, sister. DJ, are you in the space? Or you still I know you were driving earlier, so I'm not sure if you're still in the space or not.
I've been here the whole time. I'm actually on the road coming from South Jersey, bro. Almost home. But what's good, everybody? Hope everybody having a dope night. Reparations up. Shout out to Brother Devon. New York in the house. We was actually me. I ain't gonna tell you who I was up in New York with, because we're trying to keep it on a low certain shit. But so I went to New York on Saturday, right? Got our information as far as social reparations we talking about. Other things that's going on surrounding Black people, right?
Hey, hold it down for 1 minute for me.
Go ahead. I just gotta keep repeating this story right here. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Going across the light. So get up off the PATH train, right? For those that understand the PATH system, from New York, New Jersey, all the way up to 33rd Street, Times Square, Midtown area type. As soon as we get off the 33rd Street PATH station stop, go around the corner on 6th and 33rd, 34th. The moment I got around there, I got my material in hand. Hey, how you doing, sir? Check out our newsletter or whatever, social news. Man, all I heard, and me and this guy I was talking to, help. We looking around. Damn Spanish tethers on a moped trying to rob a gringo. You know what I'm saying? So, when y'all up in New York, watch out for these tether gang up there on the bicycles, on the motorbikes. That's what they do in their country if you really look this shit up. You feel what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna talk too much because I'm whipping. But go ahead, Freeman. Go ahead.
No doubt. What up, DJ?
What up?
All races. So yeah, just to emphasize the call to action, Governor Hochul, her number is 518-474-8390. Again, that's 518-474-8390. So what's so good about this call to action is that anyone all over the country can make that phone call, and y'all can tell her or her secretary, whoever answers, that this African equity bill is not reparations. That's one, and more importantly, it's unconstitutional. So when you say that, that speaks directly to their language. So they don't want to pass any type of bill that's unconstitutional, and that will make them more receptive, or make the governor more receptive to vetoing the bill, which is exactly what we want. So you tell them it's unconstitutional, it's not reparations, and it doesn't specify the American freedmen community who is owed the reparations out here in New York City. So those three simple things will go a long way. And trust and believe, they are very well aware of us, because every time I call, they always say, yes, we've heard of y'all, we keep getting calls from y'all, and we understand, we know the vibes. Stop calling. Nah, they don't say stop calling, but they're very well aware of us. So there is no plausible deniability, like Devon has mentioned. And again, I want to emphasize the other groups of people, the new Negroes, they do race work. We don't do race work. Race work is not reparations work. So we have to emphasize that the needs and all these other people, they're putting free Negroes and all this other stuff. That's not the work that we do as reparationists and as American freedmen organizations and advocacy groups. We don't do any of that. So I don't know, Don, that was very disingenuous of you, but that's just what you do. And we all know that. But yes, this is reparations bill, and it is what it is. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. Drive safe, DJ.
Hold on. For sure, brother. Appreciate it. And yeah, you're right on that 100%. I know Dawn just really be busting your chops, though, but, let's try not to disparage each other while we're talking about our reparations justice claim. Brother Early, I'm trying to bring you up, but you're going to have to hold on because I can't look at the screen right now. But go ahead, Cash. Let's go, my boy. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, peace, you man. You figure the news on stage.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Cash. You're good. Man.
Yeah, peace to the room, yeah.
Hey, speaking up too, I can barely hear you. I don't know if that's my phone or your phone. Can y'all hear Cash okay?
Check.
I am a little bit better now, but yeah, I couldn't hear before.
Yeah, peace, y'all. Hey, so,
hey, you sound like you on a Bluetooth, bro. If you want a Bluetooth, get off it. That muffled your volume or whatever.
Yeah, get away from that Negro Dawn headset.
Oh yeah, I'm back, y'all. But go ahead.
I was actually trying to use my speakerphone. My speaker. It's better though, right? There you go.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, Tyler, you back though?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, for sure. Go ahead, Tyler. You got it. I'm on the road.
Hey, go ahead. Who was ever speaking?
Well, Cash talking though. But go ahead.
Go ahead, Cash. You got it.
Got y'all, peace. Hey, so in researching the reparations claim out here in New York, and shout out to Divine, Prime, everybody out of the reparations movement so far, Freedman Woman, of course. In my understanding, the Governor Hochul is from a city called Buffalo in New York, which is the same city, if people remember, that a massacre happened with "Here's Your Reparations" written down the side of the gun. When I was first researching how we would contact her, I had that instance in mind as a part of the conversation. Since the gun said reparations, I feel like it's kind of hard for her to ignore that. I don't know if that's something we still want to use to be a part of the conversation, saying how you ain't signing for reparations and this happened in your city. You see what I'm saying? I don't know how y'all want to word it, but something I just wanted to mention. And just to be very clear, that white kid drove past the Somali community looking for a Black American one specifically, my understanding. So delineation happens when it comes to us being attacked. Maybe something that we should bring up. The bill, when it went from the Assembly to the New York State Senate, actually removed the names of multiple Pan-African organizations. But for those of us who've been to the physical town halls, we understand that they're still in the room and still trying to affect policy that speaks to race, that tries to all lives matter. We even know one group specifically fighting for just $50 billion, as well as universal health care, including for undocumented migrants as a part of their reparations. So obviously we need to make sure that these people are not a part of the conversation. But the state senator, James Sanders Jr., mentioned that should Governor Hochul veto this bill, that they have enough majority in both the state assembly and state senate to override her veto. So Devon was mentioning contingency. I try to look for those as well. Obviously, we could wait for public hearings and testimony, similar to how we did for California's reparations task force, because this is not a bill, but a bill to study reparations, right? So that's something we should keep in mind as well. And again, it only has 12 months as a deadline instead of the 24 months California had in mind. It's something that I'm applauding. But I'd ask New Yorkers if it takes less time or more time studying New York's history. Last 2 points is I was going to say that more than mentioning just that there's a groundswell of people who will be willing to say to remove her from office or whatever we're going to have as our threat to her for not supporting our veto or our lineage-based reparations vote. My argument is that it costs less to just pay Black Americans than to pay all people who self-identify as Black. And that's an argument happening between the Democrats and Republicans right now. They're trying to all lives matter our reparations claim. The Democrats as universal basic income. I can point to multiple different ways to prove this. From the mayor's website, there were mayors who were supporting reparations federally, and we're going to set up pilot programs in their respective cities as a proof of concept, showing that paying Black Americans lowers crime rates, raises GDP. Now these same mayors have went to a different website called Mayors for an Adjusted Guaranteed Income or something, and all the bills that are supporting reparations are starting to be rewritten. Matter of fact, they were fighting for reparations in Chicago, 10 different aldermen for lineage-based reparations, but the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, changed it to a universal basic income program for $500 a month for 2 years for all Black and Latino people who've been affected by the war on drugs. So that's the argument that I think is happening. I think that's a very coherent and easy to understand argument. Just pay Black Americans. They're trying to pillage the American government by paying all people who self-identify as Black. That, I believe, is the argument we should posit. And then lastly, Newstoter. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but there's a New York City reparations task force bill suggested, as well as New York State. I think we need to keep our eyes on both, because both is checks as well as the federal check. Thank God for letting me speak.
All right, peace, Cash. Appreciate it always. Original. Go ahead, Divine. I know you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk directly to that while that's on the table. What's good, Brother Cash? It was nice meeting you on Friday, bro. We're definitely going to connect like we talked about to do what we got to do out here in New York. But to his points, I just wanted to make sure I bring extra clarity, but also talk to them. Again, we're asking that anybody that participates in this call to action, you do so respectfully. You know what I'm saying? No calling the governor a cracker, nothing crazy. Like, just state your piece. You know what I mean? Like, you could bring up, her view on immigration, what's going on. That's up to you. What we're asking is just be respectful. But to Cash's point, it is fair game to bring up and juxtapose her position or her committed actions, so to speak, on reparations in juxtaposition to what happened in Buffalo and what was done and who got legislation after that massacre in Buffalo. She also, I just saw as well today, I don't know if she posted it today or if she posted it over the weekend. Probably was today since today's Monday, but she made a public comment. If you go to her Twitter, I meant to link it, where she made a statement in reference to the March on Washington and the fight for equality, and that's why New York State is, she made some type of correlation saying that a location in New York was used as the headquarters to plan it, so the March on Washington has its roots in New York. So that's fair game as well. Take her words, take her official statement, say, hey, listen, if that's how you truly feel, and we know what the March on Washington was truly about, we know what Dr. King was trying to do when he was killed, you guys are eloquent enough to tie that to reparations and why it needs to be for our lineage alone, do so. Everything that they say publicly are things that can be held, that we can hold them to account for. So definitely do that. Like I said, do it respectfully, but do it because that is the case. To Cash's next point, he is correct. Senator Sanders has said that in two of the events so far that they've been to on this quote-unquote tour around New York to get support for this bill. So there's two things. First, I want to talk directly to what Cash said and then say something else so I can get everybody else, get the mic again. I can come back around. But yes, he did say, and they do have the majority in the legislators or legislative body to veto or override the governor's veto. That is correct. They have the power to do that. They have the numbers to do that. But like I said before, what we would want to do is if we do our job and the governor vetoes this bill and she details, or we get out in front of the veto and control the narrative on why she vetoed it, even though they have the power to override the veto, each and every one of them, in an election year, mind you, will have to justify to their constituencies why they overrode the veto to get this bill up out of here since it doesn't represent true reparations. They will have to go to their constituency, and we will make sure there are people in those areas that will be asking the questions why did you want to re-implement this bill with all the issues that are laid out, the constitutionality of it, the morality of it, and for the simple fact that it is not lineage-based reparations. So we will hold them to account, and it is my belief that in that situation, even though they do have the numbers to try to override her veto, I do not think all the people that they think are on their side to do an override will want to run on that in their election year moving forward. So I think we have multiple lanes forward in those two scenarios.
All right. Thank you there, Divine. Let me get to original. Original, I know you was up here early and you fell out of the space or something. So let me go ahead and get to you. We'll get to original. We'll get to Friedman, woman, and then we'll get to Ely, and then we'll probably go ahead and close it out for the night. Go ahead, original.
Okay, peace, black power, and reparations. Yeah, Devon, I want to, what is it Devon? What is it, Devon or Devon? Anyway, I want to thank you as well as your group for the work that you are doing. Because, see, again, like I've been telling people all along, it does not take a lot of people to get something moving. And as far as his governor, yes, I will make a phone call for you and your organization. Because, see, here is the issue. See, it's like when stuff happens, or when stuff is being allocated to the Jewish community, that is not divvied out to all white communities. It is demographic specific for them. But for some odd reason, because we've allowed it to happen for decades, that people, just because they have black skin, have the belief that they should be included on anything that the Black American freedman, Negro, whatever you want to call yourself, they feel that they should be included because they look like us. See, it's kind of like, back in the 90s. We didn't know Luther Campbell was Caribbean. And all the degenerate stuff he was doing in music, he did it under blackness. But it was his Caribbean degeneracy that he was putting forward under blackness. And so we have to delineate from that and let them, as they say, hold their own nuts. Because they would never do anything like this to the Jewish community. They know it, and we know it too, because they would not allow it to stand. And that's why I've been telling people that we have to come together as much as possible, whatever that number is, and make sure that this bill is vetoed, and we have to assist you all to make sure that things are done in the proper manner. Because I'm like, because at this point, see, back in the 90s was when I initially started hearing about reparations, but it was through in Cobra. I didn't know about NAR, and I heard of what's his name, that Ron Daniels boy, because I'm not going to call him a man because he basically, and see, I didn't know, and see, I forced him on a radio station out of DC I used to listen to. I forced him to say that he gets money from
Uh-oh. I don't know what's up with the Twitter space. Don't know what happened with the Twitter space. Let me see if I can get back and connect back to it. Oh, Lord. Oh, shit.
But there's I know they have, I forget which area, which country, which city they have them around the country, but I know they got one here in Atlanta. It's called a Malcolm X grassroots something. I forget what it's called. But I was I was doing some research one day and found out that they take money from George Soros. Because see, when you look at it, you see all these little so-called black / Pan-African organizations, and they rent these halls to hold these forums and things of this nature. But then you have to ask yourself, where are they getting the money to pay for all of this? Because when you look at it, I don't really see. I know there are some black organizations that are pure black and they're not taking money, but they're struggling to, raise funding and to do this and do that and whatever. And so, when I see these organizations like Institute of the Black World and COBRA and the rest of them, and they sitting up there stating that they are speaking for the black community and not understanding that yes, it's a black community, but just like the white community, there are pockets where we separate from one another. Okay, and I would say that in the issue that I raised about how they would never do this to the Jewish community, and they know it, and they know that it's not right. But because of who some of these other organizations are connected with, and who's giving them money, which those same white philanthropy organizations give these politicians, the governor, and everyone else money as well. But I do believe that if we put up enough of a fight, we could make this not happen. But again, I just want to thank you and your organization for what you're doing, and I will do what I can do on my end from where I am with my computer phone, as they say these days. Anyway, I will land with that.
All right. Thank you, Original. Let me go ahead and get to we'll get to Freedman Woman, and Ela, we're gonna get to you as well. Go ahead, Freedman Woman.
Hi, and Ed again. I don't want to take too long, but I just wanted to clarify and just make a point about the timeline on the Task Force Commission for New York reparations. California, it took them 2 years, and they did a comprehensive, close to 1,100-page report on basically the state of freedmen in California, plus what their recommendations were, and they consulted with hundreds of people. New York's footprint in slavery is 10 times what California was. New York was the financial capital of slavery. So all of these insurance, banking, shipping, international trade, textiles, everything came through New York. If the materials weren't coming through New York, it was the money coming through New York, the money in the contracts and the financial products, as they call them these days. So besides the actual enslaved people in New York also in colonial times, I know slavery isn't going to be covered in colonial times for the reparations bill because New York wasn't a state of the United States, but New York had the second highest numbers of enslaved people in the United States. So we're talking about a state with a massive, massive footprint. So we don't want to rush it to have, we're talking about 12 months. It's going to take the task force, 4 weeks to get to know each other and decide processes. So we want to give them ample time to come up with a report that is comprehensive, like a Kerner report, like they did 60 years ago, or like the California Reparations report. That report is probably, not since the Kerner report has there been a report that extensive on freedmen, people, and history in this country. So we don't want to limit it and make them rush, and they'll use that as an excuse, and do a half-ass or job. We want a real serious commission or task force or whatever you would call it. We want serious investigation, and we want a serious report developed. We also see that as setting the stage for federal reparations, because once you go to the federal reparations level, if New York's got all of the stuff that happened here documented, you're further along in the process. Because frankly, that's going to have to be done for every state in the country. So I just wanted to put that idea out there as why it, will take longer and should take longer. So anyway, thanks.
And we get the Wall Street on that fire too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
George Washington, the president that started the country, had over
Right.
300 enslaved
Right.
folks.
Exactly.
His house is here in New York State, straight up.
The history alone would take. I mean, not that there aren't a lot of books and a lot of documentation, but some, to pull that all together in a comprehensive report, to hear from the experts, to hear from the economists, and all of the experts on that, it's really going to take time. So I don't want to be. I know the people who are pushing the bill now are like, we don't want to, take too long on this. We need to take the time that it really needs to take to get this job done. We're talking about what? 300, we're talking about 200 years of history and people's experiences, not just slavery, but everything that happened after slavery. It was pretty horrendous in New York. Don't think the North was any, I'm sure you all know, the North was no, cakewalk up here. There was extensive segregation, discrimination, violence in the North as well. So, I really want to see a presidential level report come out.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. I guess on that note, guys, we're going to get ready to unwind this space down and close it out for the night. I want to thank Divine for definitely coming in here and dropping some knowledge. Divine, is there anything that you want to go ahead and say before we go ahead and wrap the space up as well, too?
Yes, I did. I'm glad you came to, brother. So I just want to echo everything that everyone has said. That time frame, though they're trying to promote it as, we don't want to waste any time. We want to get right to it. That 1 year time frame is a joke. And so we are asking that not only does that need to be at 2 years at the minimum, in addition to that, and he said it out of his own mouth at the event in Far Rockaway, Queens. He didn't get a chance to do it at the Harlem event because the Harlem event was not interactive. They did that on purpose. But in Far Rockaway, where it was interactive, we brought up the fact that this bill has no budget attached to it. And so if you understand what California went through to fight for funding, to be able to bring in those experts, to be able to host and do town halls and have people come and give their testimony and have it live streamed, those things cost money. And so at this point in time, this bill has no money attached to the task force. And then we're talking about a task force that's only going to take a year. That's going to be a school project. And so that will be a slap in the face in and above everything else that we're talking about currently. So again, I just want to make sure if you support the bill, if you are a true supporter of lineage-based reparations, just for the record, we are fighting. It's called the American Freedmen Bill. An American freedman is someone that had ancestors that was enslaved and emancipated in this country by way of 1863 and the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment in 1865. That's what it is. No need to complicate it. That's who we're talking about. And so if you are down with that, please not only call the governor, but let the governor know that there is a bill. It has a number. It is in the assembly. It was sponsored by Nikki Lucas. And when you veto this bill, take a look at that one, because that's how reparations is supposed to be done. And I'll say this very quickly because I will do I think at this point it won't do it justice, but I will segue to this and say there will be an upcoming space to have this conversation. Again, no shade, because anybody can question whatever they want. But there was a space earlier today questioning whether we need a Freedmen's Bureau or not. And a lot of the conversation dealt with and talked about the funding for that bureau. So I want to make sure I am abundantly clear on that. Again, we will break this down at a further date. But currently, I want you guys to look up. I didn't put it in the Jumbotron. but I will tweet it later. But you can look it up. It is the MOIA. It is the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. And for last year alone, the budget, and this is the Mayor's Office now. That's New York City, not New York State. So New York City, Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, their budget for 2023 was $76 million. I'm going to say it one more time. At the city level, New York City, the 5 boroughs, the budget for the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs was $76 million. And people are questioning why a New York State Freedmen's Bureau needs to be funded at $50 million after we had these conversations, met with people that are in the New York State legislature that crunched the numbers, looked at what other people were getting as far as the New York State budget, and said, oh yeah, this is what you guys need at the very least. So for all the people that talk stuff that they don't know and talk about things that they could simply just ask to find out the clarity on, but hold entire spaces to pontificate on things that they are not aware of, I want that to be known. And again, there will be a space breaking down that budget of the MOIA and talking about what the state level Freedmen's Bureau would do, because to even question that in the wake of understanding that bureau was the first exclusive set aside for our people to get redress, to reunite families, to get justice in the judicial system. Like it just served many purposes. And I don't even understand how you could be in the reparations space and not believe that we deserve an office just for us that handles everything we needed to handle and more above and beyond reparations, when there is a city level office for immigrant affairs that got funded at the tune of $76 million, and they're looking and asking for that office to receive more funding next year. So I'll leave it there. Thank you for the space, my brother. Please join us in this call to action and look for that space in the near future so that we can break this down and have a robust conversation and have any questions and concerns asked and addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Divine. Appreciate it. Great space tonight, guys. Definitely appreciate everybody who came in tonight. All the speakers, all the listeners, as always. Definitely, guys. Like I said, with this hurricane coming up, I'm not sure exactly how the space is going to look this week. So we definitely have a hurricane that's landing here in Florida on Wednesday. So I'm not exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm not sure, how the space is going to look. I can pretty much assure you that Wednesday there will be no space, and I can't say you guys know we do it Monday through Thursday. So if it's no space Wednesday, it's a good chance there won't be one Thursday as well either. So we're just going to go ahead and try to hang in here and see how everything is going to be. We should have a space tomorrow night, guys. So definitely look for the notifications, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as always. Thank everybody for coming up in this space and supporting as always. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good night. Peace.